people felt like my expectations were simply out of reach and it was simply impossible to achieve it. Some people didn't like it. Some people believed it was too much. Whenever you're building your company and you want to have a strong culture, you can't please everyone. When the crisis hit in 2022, I just realized that we had been taking strategic decisions when it comes to scaling that were not adapted to our ambition. I realized I made mistakes. I didn't level up fast enough and I was becoming a bottleneck for our ambition. We always knew that we wanted to run multiple products within our company. However, the tech team had not scaled at all. We were a team with 10 people and we wanted to run maybe 4 or 5 different products. So essentially our vision was not aligned with our actions. I kind of felt like it's now or never for me to really step up. You need as a CEO to push that culture of growing, of striving, of momentum, of learning, of evolving, because in the end you can create a lot of emulation when everyone around you is actually growing, because you want to do the same. When people stop growing in a company, there is a massive issue. Because for me, if you don't grow, you're not fulfilled. You're just staying in your comfort zone, and in the long term, it's gonna basically create a toxic environment, because you would have people who keep growing. We're gonna get frustrated by seeing people staying at the same level. It's only by having super high expectations that you can actually achieve things that you thought you were not capable of doing. I think that sometimes people felt like my expectations were simply out of reach and it was simply impossible to achieve it. You always have someone who wants more, who expects more. And sometimes I think that it can be a bit tiring, and that's why communication is super important. Whenever you have high expectations and you don't communicate clearly on the why, then people might get confused. For a long time, I saw that coaching was a bit bullshit. It felt like, yeah, I have a coach. I just felt like I could learn everything by myself. And in reality, a coach is someone who's gonna ask you the right questions so you can find the right answers. The power of asking good questions is something that is very underrated. It's all about the questions that you get asked that allows you to get the answers that you were not always looking for. I realized that having a 1-hour conversation with someone can unlock tremendous potential for the business. We're at a stage where we want to build a $1 billion company. So each and every single decision I make now has a huge impact. I took actually 2 types of coaching. One coaching was what we call 360 leadership. And essentially you have people who work with you directly, people who don't work with you directly, but who are in the same company, and people who might be your board or external, who are basically gonna evaluate what kind of leader you are. And I think it's really good because you evaluate yourself first, they evaluate you in an anonymous formula, and then in the end, you can see what matches and where it differs.
It's organized in 4 dimensions. First axis is creative versus reactive. Creative competencies are the leadership competencies that are driving engagement and business results. There's a lot of mathematical research behind it. But also at the bottom of the graph is the reactive competencies, or rather reactive tendencies, because they most often come from life history or even successes. And so when we do that, we get a map. In your case, Guillaume, in the creative dimensions, there were 2 dimensions that were not so much used, that were balance and sustainable productivity. And that comes from your DNA, right? Your formula to success is strong effort. Another thing was the importance that you give on targets, achievement, and doing things rather than relationships. And that tells us 2 things: your desire to win and your fear of losing. And the desire to win is, of course, providing a lot of drive in the organization. But when the pressure goes high, then you fall into the fear of losing that increased control.
The second coaching I did was a CEO coaching, which is essentially a group of other CEOs where we would share, our struggles, the challenges we have, and try to find solutions all together.
How much time do you think you're all spending on those 2 most valuable things that only you can do for your business?
Personally, I would say 30% of my time is made to evangelization. So talking about the market, building the community, creating content, and sharing the vision or working on the vision for the team. So it would be 30% of my week.
What do you think it would look like if that was 90% of your week?
Having this kind of group support was extremely helpful and kind of pushed me to do this more. So I started at the time like to go and network a lot more with other CEOs and be part of a lot of more groups, because sometimes, like when you're just super focused on your business and heads down, you don't take enough time, like to kind of, take a bird's view on what's going on, get others people also learnings and take the right decisions. With Pierre, what was really interesting is we did also more than coaching, which was guided meditation, where you essentially have to think about the different energies that you have inside yourself. So for example, whenever you get super mad, you have a fighter energy. Then, whenever you're with people, you might have what I call the American coach energy, which is, being super inspiring, having all these people fired up. With Pierre, we really tried to connect with all the different energies that I had. And then he helped me essentially channel my energy based on the different situations. So during the coaching, I would go to him and explain, some of the frustrations that I'm having. And then he would ask me the question, what type of energy do you think would be helpful in this type of situation? The biggest learning with Christine was I need to hire an executive assistant. We just started to time how much it takes us to answer emails on a daily basis. And then it's okay, how many of these emails could be answered by someone else? And then you realize that, actually 80 or 90% don't need me to answer. You realize, actually I'm doing a lot of tasks that I could delegate on my day-to-day. And for me, it was weird at first, to have an executive assistant, but after chatting with Christine and looking at what her executive assistant was doing, I was okay, this is it. And it allowed me to save more than 15 hours per week, which is huge when you look at it. The first thing I realized is that coaching is not bullshit, like I used to think before. I think it's the biggest realization. I'm a lot more grounded. I understand what are the struggles that I need to solve whenever managing the team or leading the team. And I just feel like I have a place where I can find solutions. From the start, I started to apply exactly the same technique the coach were applying on me, but on my team, just to test whether or not, it was working. And I was really amazed. I was just really amazed by whenever you ask questions, what you can get from people. And I feel like the better the question you ask, the better the information you're gonna receive. I spend a lot more time listening. I spend a lot more time empowering them rather than telling them what to do or how I would do things. And I think this is game changing. I think that coaching was essential. I think it was at the perfect time where we were laying out the foundation of the business. So for me, it was really important to make sure that the foundation were the best one possible. I think that you can always grow more as an individual, but even though I can grow as an individual, I need my team to grow as well. And I can be the one to help them achieve that growth, or at least to unlock it. Then, it's trying to find the right balance between what you want short-term for the business, the long-term vision, and your growth as an individual. I don't think that you always need a coach. I just think you need people to talk to. So I kind of decided to stop coaching for a while and kind of create my inner circle instead, because sometimes I feel people who faced exactly the same problem as you did have also a better way of asking questions and can lead you to answers in a smoother way, I would say. If you're facing struggles as a CEO, the first thing is find someone who's one step ahead of you and who can share his experience or her experience with you. Second part is try coaching if you have not done it before, because you will learn a lot about yourself, but also you will learn a lot about growing as an individual and how you can apply exactly what you've learned with your team. And the third thing is invest in yourself. You will never regret to invest in yourself. I used to think, you know what, it can wait. In the end, it can't. During the time last summer where I took on a lot of coaching, I realized we've always been an international company with the vast majority of our customers in the US. However, I felt like it was the time for me to go and push the growth over there. So that's when I kind of decided to go on a 1 month tour in the US. It was easy for me to say, you know what, there are tons of things going on. I need to handle the business and not go. But in the end, I was okay, it's a huge business opportunity. I'm gonna be able to convert thousands of people to everything we do. So I just saw okay, let's fucking do it. I think it felt very impressive for me at first to be invited on such a tour. We were going to speak in like 10+ cities and in front of like thousands of people. I got like intimidated.